and the creating of the whole experience for the public to appreciate the photographs, the contributions of our co-participants in this project. So first, we will do the walkthrough. Yesterday, we inverted the program. We started with the Q&A, and this time around, let's start with the walkthrough, which I think would be quite interesting. And please feel free to ask any questions along the way if you have any, or if you want to comment on anything. Yeah, just let me know. So let's just imagine we are actually in a similar space, in a gallery, and let's just imagine we're walking through this. Um, what we're seeing right now, this newly constructed kind of digitally designed exhibition space. Um, it's not photorealistic, but that's not the point. The point is to actually appreciate the photographs that you'd see here. And to be honest, for me, this kind of space, the way Martin and I designed it, really has a certain appeal. Um, well, it depends on who's actually looking at it. So here we go. Anyway, so you'd occasionally see different um, hallways that intersect with the virtual gallery space that we have. For example, as we look at this, um, I was about to say title slide, breaking the the illusion that it's a virtual gallery. As we look at the title wall, you could also see th- this hallway of the National Museum of the Philippines, and occasionally you'd also see different hallways of different museums and galleries in different parts of the ASEAN. And if you're interested to know which of these national galleries or museums um, are included or depicted in this virtual gallery, you could just look at the user guide because we credited the photograph. So if you click on the question here, question mark, it's our help button, you'd see the user guide. And then we also add the featured museum images here so that you would have a general idea of what which museums, which galleries from different Southeast Asian countries you're looking at. And you could also play the audio recording or audio guide version of our curatorial statement. And I'd like to thank Freya Chow-Paul for doing the recording of this one. It's we can only have it in English, unfortunately, because it's hard to produce different audio recordings for all the languages. That would really take so much time, and we we understand that um, having different audio qualities for the whole translated recordings would be quite messy, but we try our best. We offer the translated version of the curatorial statement on the homepage of the website. Anyway, going back to the gallery, so here we go. Oh, by the way, we also added some, what do you call that, Easter eggs or nice things that you could click on, and then you could find out more virtual gallery. So for example, if you click on this globe, you'd see some additional information about Southeast Asia. You could try it out on your own browser if you're actually looking at the virtual gallery on your own right now. So there we go. This is a very interesting part, and I really enjoyed working on this video installation. So it's a Zoom listen in, and what we did here was to simulate the conversations that we had in the last. So I yesterday I couldn't really count um, the number of months, but apparently I added audio clips from April until this month. So that's about 8 months total. If you click on this, or perhaps you could also click on the laptop, it opens this pop-up that would also request for your webcam. If you're happy to allow it, you're able to see yourself. Hopefully it also, well, maybe it interferes with my Zoom um, recording right now, but anyway, you're able to see yourself here if you do it on your own browser, and then if you play this bit, then you're also able to listen to all the
If
conversations,
you're speaking of that, like
the excerpts of the conversations that we've ever had. Now, um, the purpose of this Zoom listening is to actually give a bit of a, uh, let's say, research background for the whole exhibition, so that you have a better idea of where we're coming from in staging the whole show, the whole exhibition. And we would really appreciate it if you actually log in our guest book, so that the experience is quite like a typical museum gallery, where as soon as you enter the reception, there would be a guest book that you could sign. So there we go. This is a photographic exhibition, digital photographs, and all the photographs that was contributed for this virtual gallery were taken using camera phones. Um, I think except for a couple of photographs that was recently added by our participant from Cambodia, but most of the photographs are taken using camera phones, and we'd really like to showcase the different slices of life, the different everyday things, the different um, daily experience that we have experienced in the last 6 to 8 months while doing the project. Let's try clicking on this. There. Um, Photographs of food, especially rice meals, always um, led us into fun conversations, and perhaps it's because we really share this among Southeast Asian countries. But I think it's a really interesting point of discussion whenever there's food. So there. You could also click on a particular photograph if you'd like to see the credits, if you'd like to view of the bigger quality of the photograph, and yeah, the credits here. Some photographs are anonymized as requested by some of our participants. There we go. Mm, yeah. This part was one of the very first walls that Martin and I put up. Remember this wall started the whole building of the virtual gallery. So I feel like this particular layout set the tone or set the rhythm of the photographs, and I really enjoyed discussing the hanging of the photographs with Martin here, because we were actually joking that it felt like we are physically hanging different um, framed photographs every time we encounter a blank wall. even if everything is digital. And that's because um, you can't just it's not like a PowerPoint slide. You can't just drag and drop these objects. There's certain things you need to do. For example, you need to measure their height and width so that you know that they would be spaced evenly. And then we kind of add some slight uh, shadow so that it doesn't appear too flat. So it's almost like fixing the lights and making sure that the direction of the lights really fall correctly on the photographs, on the photographic prints. And you'll observe that Martin here was working with color and photographic composition. He's working a lot on that specific aspect of the image. Although that's just my observation, we didn't really talk so much in terms of the specifics why this particular photograph goes before this photograph. And I think that's how exhibition design unfolds at times, especially when you are able to process or distill all the ideas that you've had since working with the whole um, participatory photography project, because Martin has been with us since day one, since April. So he's quite become familiar with all our conversations. And I think what he's trying to do here as he's hanging the photographs is he's trying to no, he's not actually trying. I think he's conveying what he have summed up through these months. Right, Martin? You're not actually like you weren't taking notes. You didn't have like a bullet point that you're taking. You're just hanging them because you felt that's how it should go. But you'd observe that there's also um, composition here, colors, and um, occasionally you'd see content being nearly similar. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. Let's walk through the gallery. Yeah, this photograph, Faizul contributed this because we asked our co-participants to take a photo of a specific object that um, you can only find in your own country. And he thought about this object. But to be honest, I don't remember what it's called. I only remember the conversation that we had with him. So it's a special, normally it's a special gift. And normally this kind of gift is what you give during weddings or special occasions such as um, graduation or awarding um, a special VIP, and it's a costly gift. It's kind of a woven textile. I really appreciate seeing these kinds of photographs that you don't normally see when we talk about Southeast Asia, because we're quite familiar with Googling keywords such as Southeast Asia tourism, or beaches in Southeast Asia. And these images of photographs that you see right now aren't normally part of that picture. And portraying them right now is quite, uh, I'd say, not enlightening, but it opens um, my mind to seeing things that I've never seen before, actually seeing things that I've always taken for granted. Yeah. So yesterday we talked about how I placed these flags beside the spices, these different what do you call that, condiments for cooking, and that's how um, Southeast Asia could be perceived. There's a lot of diversity there. It's a mix of many things. It's a mix of colors, and I think what we're looking at in this photographic exhibition is quite the same thing. We're looking at colors. We're looking at different cultures. We're looking at different perspectives of people from different countries, and mixing them together gives us certain flavors that we've never imagined before or encountered before. So yeah. Again, if you have any question along the way, or if you'd like me to zoom in any of the photographs, then just feel free to ask. Although I'm just happy to say hi to Reka, my former colleague at Asia Europe Foundation. Yeah, thank you for dropping by and joining our walkthrough. So this is an interesting photograph, I must say, um, because when Yami contributed this, so she took a photo of this in Thailand, in Bangkok, and I didn't realize that um, there would be something like this in a specific country where the ASEAN is actually like this visible. Because normally I would consider the ASEAN to be visible in diplomatic events or international relations, but in the mall is um, a bit more. I think it gives a semblance of access to ordinary citizens, to people who actually just walk by, for them to recognize what the ASEAN. This These two photographs, whenever we do a curator talk or a walkthrough, I always like to talk about these two photographs because I noticed that um, there's quite a similarity to, maybe I'm just, I'm the only one who sees it, but to me, there's a lot to say about it. The composition, the similarity, and the patterns. It's like you're looking at a QR code snail, or you're looking at the fingerprint of that snail as soon as the snail leaves. um would you like to say few thoughts on this, Martin, how you came up with this two photographs?
I wouldn't really say I came up with it by myself, but I think it just kept coming up in our own conversations while we were going through the photos. And you did point out that, in a way they feel very similar. Like for me, they're similar like in color tone. And like the more you look at it, the more it starts to feel like, yeah, one could be the other, or like it could be a QR code on the back of the snail, or like I remember there was also conversations about um circles and squares.
Yeah. And apart from that, if you notice the patterns, it's all repetitive patterns. So for example, the QR code would have repetitive squares or pixels, and then the snail would have repetitive circles. And maybe that's why I really am usually drawn towards these two images, which I think encapsulates one of our discussions in our participant conversations, because we talked about how Southeast Asia is an emerging hub of technology, and at the same time it is still very much a place of ecology, of nature and environment. And juxtaposing these two images actually says a lot about that. So when Wawa contributed this image, because she's a malacologist, so she studies mollusks and snails. That's how her job is really about, and she's concerned with marine ecology. You actually remember that the environment in Southeast Asia is one of the most prone to climate change and to technological advances. And even I think even without thinking so much about these two photographs, um, you kind of picture it, or you kind of get a certain feeling of um, tension with when it comes to technology and something strange, or um, could be
I think,
blending as well. Yeah.
yeah, no, I guess just to add to that, there's also, I guess, a sense of familiarity. I guess right now during the time of the pandemic, like at least here in Singapore, QR codes are probably the most prevalent symbol you'll find everywhere. Walking into a
Mm.
building, if you need to pay for something, there's probably a QR code for that. So even product information, for example, most likely these things will also have QR codes and whatever. And I guess, like, if you think about it for the snail, then having grown up in Southeast Asia, they're quite common, especially in the rainy season once the streets start to get wet and the sidewalks, and like you'll randomly start to see them just show up from God only knows where.
Yeah. And you took a photo of this one in Singapore, no?
Yes, it's actually not a check-in QR code. It was a QR code on a product I bought around the time
Yeah.
we were doing the photo voice thing. And I think this one was for the prompt for this one was take a photograph of a symbol.
Mm. Yeah.
And I don't know, I thought like in the middle of a pandemic, then there is no other symbol more ubiquitous than this.
Yeah. Um, During um, this pandemic, where we're not allowed to touch, to make contact with things and objects apart from ourselves, then QR codes become quite handy. And again, it loops us back into this two image. There's this species of you know some sort of nature, and also the QR code, which is, are we striking a balance here? Are we looking at two different opposing forces, or are we blending them together? As you can see visually, there's a certain blending of patterns here, which I'm always drawn towards. So I really enjoy looking at this wall. So going through the virtual gallery, you'd also see the other exhibitions or curatorial projects that we have staged or contributed for the whole Made in ASEAN online exhibition. So, for example, um, the the staging of this curatorial project called Mesa sa Cuarto, which is desk or table in a room, is my version of how I see our whole participatory photography sessions um, evolve visually, not necessarily in terms of the conversations that we've had, but it's like collecting different slices of or parts or aspects of someone's country during the whole participatory um, conversations over Zoom. And when I presented the Mesa sa Cuarto, what I did was I tried looking for all the objects that um, are from or made from Southeast Asian countries in my own bedroom, and I placed them on top of a desk. That's my only working desk, and I showed this as if it were a gallery on Zoom, because anyway, we are now so familiar with the Zoom gallery view. Might as well convert this Zoom gallery into an actual art exhibition gallery. And the interesting point that I actually like to make about this particular um, exhibition is that um, if we were to collect it's objects from Southeast Asia. I'm also imagining myself as an archivist of Southeast Asian material culture. Like, let's say if Southeast Asia disappears and then they uncover things from the ASEAN, then do we see these objects? Are we looking at these artifacts of a gone civilization? And I've only thought about that idea when the recent typhoon happened, because I couldn't really pull off some of the parts of this online exhibition because we had no internet for like 24 hours and intermittent internet and electricity in the next few weeks because of the typhoon really hit hard. And I think creating an exhibition like this, whether we're talking about identity, like I mentioned yesterday, we're not necessarily separating parts of that identity into, compartmentalizing it into certain factors or variables, because they really come together as one. So if we're looking at the photographs here, for example, um, let's say the photos of the everyday, then that's our experience of our identity, an outward looking, instead of looking inward and examining our bodies, examining ourselves as Southeast Asians. Who are we? We actually tend to look outside because perhaps our identity might be there, and our search continues, and this is how we're photographing these things. So that actually sums up one of the main points that I think I have raised yesterday. And yeah, I think if you have questions about these thoughts, yeah, feel free to ask anytime, or you could um, wait until later when we do our Q&A and open forum. So this part, apart from the um, audio recording of the curatorial talk, we also recorded an audio guide, which is essentially what I performed in Estonia back in 2019. I meant to say last year, but it felt too long ago. Too long ago now. But so if you click on this object, you're able to hear the audio guide, and I'd like you to experience it the way the participants of the Nordic Summer University experience this, what I would call performative photography. So I asked them to just walk around the room. So it's like a performance art. There was about 30 of us. So we were walking around in a room, and we're from different countries, but I think I'm the only one from Asia. Yeah. So I asked them to to kind of plot themselves and create a map according to their home country. And it's quite interesting to see everyone identify where they are from relative to another's, because you couldn't plot yourself without knowing where your fellow participant is from. So we were building that. So this audio guide is a re-performance of what we did last year, and I think you'd find it interesting if you do it on your own. um, it's almost like meditation, like Martin mentioned when we were creating the virtual exhibition. And that's why I ended up labeling it as um, meditation mediatization, because I'd also like to inject a little bit of a communication media theory there. Because while it's almost like a meditative kind of, if you download one of those meditation guide apps now, so it feels like that. But knowing that your roots is from Southeast Asia, where apart from South Asia like India and Nepal, where Southeast Asia actually birthed meditative traditions and practice of meditation, it's quite interesting to use technology for it to guide you for you to achieve some peace and calm and connectedness to, the cosmos or yourself. So that's why I called it meditation mediatization. Anyway, let's go around. um this photograph was contributed by Freya, and honestly, when I saw this, I jumped with joy because it um it just depicts so much that I want to show as well. So there's a certain familiarity to this, because imagine the high rise, very neat, modern buildings out there, and then there's a clothesline. It's quite interesting. Is this from where you live or your apartment right now, Freya? It is. Okay. Would you share a few, um, you know, thoughts on this?
Sure. Yeah, so it's the apartment above me, so it's
Ah.
looking upwards. But as you said, that the comparison between the modern high-rise buildings, but also the use of like bamboo poles to hang your laundry outside. Like most people still use this rather than using like washer dryers to dry their clothes.
Hmm.
Or at least that's the sense that I get. And it's just it's a unique thing that in this way, because clotheslines in Europe are more like plastic and just out in the garden somewhere. But
Hmm.
the use of the bamboo and the traditional material, I think, is very interesting. Um,
Hmm.
but I also like the brands on the shirt color on the shirt, and um, yeah, yeah, it's a
Hmm.
nice
Yeah.
reflection.
Yeah. And again, going back to our discussion earlier on the QR code and the snail, the image of the snail, it's like how the appeal or personality of Southeast Asia is quite like that. You mentioned that these clothes are hand using the bamboo sticks, right? And so imagine that. So there's like a modern building there, and then a very traditional way of drying clothes, and at the same time you're using bamboo sticks. So it's quite an appeal. And I've got a quick comment. QR codes have become an externalized DNA, an outward symbol of who we are. Actually, yes, you're correct, Adrian. It's like, especially right now during the pandemic. Thank you, Adrian, for that comment. Because so I've just experienced going out recently after being just indoors for a long, long time. And I realized how much data we need to provide right now just so the government and the health authorities are able to track or trace wherever and whoever we are. And and Adrian, you're right in saying that it's like an externalized DNA right now, because whenever I provide my information, it's asking not just who I am, but also my own condition. Am I COVID free? And am I safe to, be in contact with other people? Yeah. Um, and these images that we're looking at, I think, is quite like that. These are digital images. I remember in one earlier conversation that I've had with Martin. So when we were still thinking of how to curate these photographs, we were talking about how to present digital photographs, because they're quite different if we actually go in the discussion of photography as art. And especially in the art world, there's still some debates about how analog photography is quite different from digital photography. And I remember, Martin, you mentioned that, yeah, the debate arises from how analog photography actually captures a particle of light and embeds it on a substrate or a film. But digital photography is mathematical formulas. So it's the computer trying to encode a certain mathematical formula for us to see an image. But then again, we're using digital photography to talk about identity. That's an interesting difference to make in the study or the use of photography, because let's say going back to the time when they're still um when photography was still being used as a tool for science and documentation, and the colonial period has used it so much to photograph subjects as if to archive their identities, and for the for scientists or researchers to be able to study them. And it's almost like what we're doing right now. We're again archiving things, but this time around it's not the people that are being photographed. We're photographing what the people are seeing and what goes on around them. So in the virtual exhibition gallery, we also offer um, some participatory activities. You could contribute by submitting your photographs. If you click on this, if you see this on the main website page, it's also there. It's called ASEAN Photo Voices. So feel free to submit your images if you think you'd like to contribute to the discussion of Southeast Asian photography, Southeast Asian identity, and community building. So there you go. This images again. I think all these images were taken during the pandemic. And this one was taken by Martin in Singapore. And then this one was taken by Yami in Bangkok. And then this one was taken by Kerrine in Singapore. And this one by Yami in Bangkok. So actually, we're looking at two countries on this wall. Um, Thailand and Singapore. But you actually feel that they're quite the same place. And that's one of the things that we actually talked about in our participant conversations, where these photographs that we are looking at right now could be from any place in the ASEAN, and they blend well together. So we also have other activities in the whole Made in ASEAN online exhibition, and crossword puzzle is one of them. And perhaps I could ask Kerrine or Andy to um, introduce or talk about the uh, this side exhibition. We call it a side exhibition. Let me just load it. Sorry for my internet. Oops, wrong. Sorry. I need to click this one and then open this. Okay. So the last time we tried playing the crossword puzzle game was December 5, and it was quite a nice experience because it will really make you think, and it was quite a challenge, but you will enjoy playing the game. Okay, let's just load this one. Yeah, feel free to um, join in the conversation, Andy or Cream. Sorry.
Hello. Yeah, no, no, I just, yeah, so I think you can
Yeah.
access the crossword first lah. Yeah, maybe Kristian, can you help to access the crossword? Yeah.
Okay, so I load the cross because here, just to quickly show them that we have instructions here so that they're able to participate better. And then if you click play now, then you're going to be led on this bit. Okay, where's the zooming in? I mean,
I think it's loading. Okay.
yeah, uh, there we go.
Okay, so the crossword puzzle is inspired by like um the I think it's the idea of intersection. Yeah, that's the focus. It's the idea of intersection where sometimes it's hard to box or categorize certain images as something. A or category B. Yeah, it,
Mm,
different people interpret them differently, so that's why like there's intersection. So for example, like the first row, I think Christian has pointed the focus the screen there, right? So the first row, if you see, right, it's all like food related, right?
yeah.
But at the same time, food is also related to like spices and things like that. So that's why like the next one, so if you look at um the grid S no sorry R4, yeah, R4, grid R4, then there's like spices and ingredients and things like that that makes up that noodle, that bowl of noodle. So this is where the intersection plays. Yeah.
Mm, okay. Sorry for loading slowly. I don't know what. Okay. Yeah.
I guess we also wanted some sort of interaction between the participants. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, because the whole idea of having like word puzzles is so that people can come together and they're able to share about things that are not common. So usually our interactions that are in ASEAN countries are, we're there as tourists. So whatever we receive there are usually touristy information. Yeah, so I thought like the interaction in a crossword puzzle will be more meaningful. Like you get to understand about a country more than what it is as a tourist.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I think if you've never tried this game, it would really challenge you, but it's really exciting to play. Well, I say it's challenging because number one, you need to have photos that you wish to contribute. So while I was sharing this to my colleagues back in the UK, they did want to participate and want to actually add photographs there, but they couldn't because they don't have images that are from Southeast Asia. So they were asking me, "Can I add anything that is relevant?" And then my only response was, "Let me think about that." So that's one. But at the same time, I think it's also interesting in case this one, because anyway it's called crossworld, then might as well create an intersection with, because perhaps some of my colleagues back in the UK actually understand some of these photographs because they've been there, they've tried it, but they just don't have the photograph to add. So yeah, might as well. We could ask them to try it actually. Okay, let me just. Sorry for this because I think my. So let me just remove the screen share and reset the website. But yeah, so thank you, Kerrine and Andy, for that. Um, if you've never tried crossword puzzle, so our guests today, please feel free to try it out because it's quite exciting. Okay, and then let's go back to. Okay, I've now refreshed the. There we go. It's not pixelated anymore. Okay. So yeah, one of the challenges that we've encountered in putting up this exhibition, of course, because it's an online exhibition, is the internet and internet connection. So we had about 1,000 visitors or more actually visiting our website, but some of them I think couldn't stay as long because I think like Wawa, our participant from Malaysia, she mentioned that many of her students back in Malaysia really wanted to participate in certain parts of the exhibition and look at the virtual gallery, but they're unfortunately just using mobile data, which is quite weak. So I think that's one of the few considerations that we'd like to look at as we as we try to improve on this online exhibition because it's still a work in progress. We're still adding new things every week. So we'll see how we could consider the internet connection for some people in some countries. And that's what exactly I am experiencing right now. That's why I had to reset my screen. Anyway, so just to give a bit of a background, um, our participatory photography is not unique, and what we did was is almost similar to what the um, unofficially what some ASEAN member citizens have been doing since 2011. So uh, back in back in 2011, the ASEAN community Facebook page was created, and then it sought to ask photographs from Facebook followers from different Southeast Asian countries so that they could contribute images of Southeast Asia. And we're extending what they've been doing since 2011. However, what's the difference that we actually have, or this project has, is that it's not a contest, there's no competition. We're using images to actually interact with each other and not just show things from our different countries. And I think we still owe it to these early initiatives about photographing Southeast Asia to be able to put up something like this. And so that's just to let you know that this is not a unique project, but in a sense, we're contributing new things and new perspectives into discussion of um, ASEAN identity. So yeah, there's more photographs, but perhaps we could ask our guests if they have questions at this point. So because it's about five, or before we do that, maybe we could ask Martin to explain his curatorial project, the side exhibition called Anonymized Skies.
Okay. Um, where to start? But I guess so for this particular one, um, I was just really fascinated by the color of the skies from all of the different photos we received throughout the um, what was it, a month long or 2 month long discussions when we were asked to submit photos and all sorts of things. And like it just got me thinking, if we put the skies side by side, would you actually be able to tell the difference um, between between each of the ASEAN countries? And then at some point when we were also building the website for the virtual exhibition, we thought like, what if people could submit photos and let's see, and would we actually be able to check if the photo was from the ASEAN or not? But then, does it matter if it was taken in the ASEAN, or does it matter if the photo was taken by someone of the ASEAN? So maybe I guess it's sort of like a thought experiment and a photographic experiment trying to figure out um, what does the sky look like, and what does it remind you of, I guess, when you see it? Like, does it feel like home? Like, do you even think of the ASEAN as your home or just your home country? And
Hmm.
I guess that's just the thoughts that was like running through my head when we sort of tried to bring this together.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's a really exciting side exhibition, especially um, if we get different contributions from unexpected countries. So if you haven't contributed to this, feel free to um, go to this link. It's the same link, but you try to find anonymized guys on our website, so you could get coordinates, and then it would automatically add your location here. But of course, you would be anonymized, and then you
Yeah.
could submit any photograph of
The
the
form will
sky.
ask for your email, but we don't store the email in any database. It's just to verify that you're an actual human being submitting a photo, and then the the photos will be posted with just the coordinates and that.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Martin, for that, for sharing. Okay. Sorry, I occasionally turn off my camera because unlike yesterday, I feel like my internet connection today is a bit weaker, but that's how it is. So there we go. Could anyone guess which two countries we're looking at? Two different views. Mhm. I think the first photograph is quite obvious already. Does anyone remember? Quite. So this one, if I'm correct, this is by Kerrine. Yeah, this is a view from where you are right now. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's from my room. Yeah, it's the view outside my room.
Yes. And actually, this one is from me, and it's also a view from my room. So yeah, it feels like I'm in cage, but I love the lighting. It's always like that by 4:30 or 5 p.m. So yeah, it's quite like a dramatic kind of sunset that I get. But looking at these two images, that's again another perspective of what the ASEAN is or what Southeast Asia is. The development that we actually are anticipating or that we actually have in our different countries. And also, you know, the nostalgic warm glow of, the sun. This is, I think, what inspired you, Martin, to produce the Anonymized Sky curatorial project. Yeah, no?
Yeah. Um, it just got me thinking. Like, I remember like when I was growing up at around 4 or 5, like everything would just be in a tint of orange or red, and then like I think it was just also like one afternoon here in Singapore. It's like, does it not get red here or orange? And then it did get red and orange, but for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think these two photographs really depict the ASEAN and our experience of it, especially because the ASEAN is all about development. And for me, the sunset glow is quite a look back of what it used to be. Anyway, that's just me. So again, let's try to click on. So we cannot talk about the ASEAN without actually talking about its colonial past, and that's why there's a specific wall on this. And I even quoted one scholar from Singapore. He's the one who put up this photography book on Southeast Asia, one of the most extensively researched books on photographing Southeast Asia, Zhuang Wu Bin. I hope I pronounced his name correctly, but he mentions that the imaginary of Southeast Asia is is like a posture of solidarity with others who have been made peripheral by the centers of power, and that's really quite talking about Southeast Asia's colonial past. I think Andy, you were going to say something. Sorry.
No, no, not really.
Okay, I thought you were reaching for the microphone to correct me because I pronounced his name incorrectly.
No, no. You mean this academic?
Christian.
You say he's from Singapore, right? He's from Singapore.
Yes, he's the one who extensively studied photography in Southeast Asia. And because several of us are from ASEF, or were from ASEF, he even included Sean Lee in this study. He featured Sean Lee in this, yeah. So Zhuang Rubin, I hope, yeah. Anyway, so I remember that I had this card that was sent to me from Hanoi by a friend, and it actually shows a depiction of the galleon ship. You definitely recognize it because of the masts and the cross or the crucifix that it has, and I think that's how the Southeast Asian culture and history was shaped through the years. We couldn't really find our identity and discuss it without looking back and actually considering what was Southeast Asia like in the past, and that's why we also included that in this wall. Um, if you just joined our Zoom session, so we're going through the walkthrough of the virtual gallery, and we're looking at the photographs, but you could also do it on your own browser if you feel like your internet connection is faster than mine, because mine's a bit slower today, unfortunately. Just go to ASEAN 2020 vision.online/exhibition. So you're able to view the same thing as what we're looking at right now. These two additional photographs, I was talking about this because our recent participant from Cambodia contributed these photographs, and I think it's a nice depiction of the everyday from his angle, which I think we could also relate to. And he even insisted on showing this photograph. So this is Pinok, and the participant from Cambodia, but he's with his Indonesian friends, and he mentioned that the ASEAN is quite a hopeful regionalism project if we actually just focus on, you know, people-centered approach and actually look at how to bring the region together, which reminded me of what Kerrine took a photo of or a screenshot of this YouTube video of different theater and musical performers in Southeast Asian countries. They sang "Seasons of Love." Yeah, I really love this song. It used to be like a theme song for me back in college when I was still very active in theater, which I remember we always joked about Freya. Yay, theater people. Anyway, so actually Trixie just joined, and she is from the theater. She used to be from Dulaang UP or in UP. She performed back there in college, right, Trixie? Hello, nice to see you. Anyway, so just to show you, but I don't have to play the music actually. It's very interesting, this collaboration. Um, it arose from, the pandemic as well. But okay, we really cannot avoid ads now. Yeah. So if you look at the exhibition gallery, the virtual exhibition gallery, we opened with the Zoom simulation and we ended with this. It's almost like a mirroring of what we've done and what the other cultural practitioners in the region has also done and contributed for Southeast Asia. So I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Kerrine, for for taking a screenshot of this video. Yeah. So I think that's about it. This is the whole exhibition gallery. Feel free to go online and also add your feedback. You could also ask questions um, if you wish, and contribute your photographs by clicking on this photographing the ASEAN wall. You could add images of Southeast Asia that you think might contribute to the discussion of Southeast Asian identity and community building. And I think for now we could also open the floor for some questions if anyone's curious about this virtual gallery, or if you'd like to say something, feel free to let us know. Yeah. Hey, Trixie. Yeah, sure.
Hi.
Hi, Trixie.
Hello.
Kumusta?
Hey naman.
Okay. How are
Uh,
you? Do you have any
yeah,
questions?
yeah, I have a question. I'm just curious about the process. Like, how long did you take to set up the exhibit, and how was like the whole process, like from the
Yeah.
pre-production and everything?
Okay, so setting up the whole virtual gallery is uh, one thing, And the other thing is actually the whole participatory photography project. So we have our co-curators here, Freya, Kerrine, Andy, and Martin. Martin, I think, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Martin because he also went to the same university, but the participatory photography is like an FGD, or like ethnographic study, and we've been doing it since April, so it's a long time now, mostly done during the pandemic. But setting up this exhibition space started sometime in October, when we finished accounting for all the photographs that was submitted by our participants. And if you're interested to know about the conversations, that's why we added this Zoom listen in wall, so that you could also listen to some snippets of our conversations that we've had since April to December. Just click on this, and then you could also listen. Yeah, there, now it works. Earlier it didn't work. So you could also see yourself, but you're not recorded. Don't worry, it's just a simulation. It's a nice, imagine that the virtual gallery has this, this simulated Zoom installation, art installation. And then, yeah, you'd find out about some of the themes that we discussed since April. So after discussing you know, the whole edit or selection of photographs, we also discussed how to present it for the public to appreciate. And since we're limited to um, only online platforms, we couldn't do a physical exhibition because of COVID, then we chose to create this um, kind of not really photorealistic virtual gallery. Yeah,
Mhm.
but that I hope you appreciate. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question from Adrian, Christian. So
Oh, yeah,
I'll read
sure.
it out.
Please.
Christian and Martin, you have tried to recreate some physical aspects of the gallery experience. For example, the sense of 3D space, the lighting. In what ways do you think the digital medium has enhanced the idea of a gallery? Hmm.
Wow. This question should have been asked yesterday when I was really such an academic person. Because remember yesterday I realized, oh my gosh, our curator's talk sounds like a lecture. So I tried to lighten up a bit today because I don't want to sound like a professor. Anyway, um,
um, I can start and
yeah,
then
you could,
because
please,
I'm sure
please.
yours will be much more academic.
No.
But I guess coming from um, more like a design slash technical perspective, um, I think you know the pandemic gave us new like it challenged us because you can't be in places physically. So then you put up things online and you create these virtual spaces. But also it's because they're not quote real spaces, um, new possibilities are also available. You can have things that you know expand or shrink. You can access it anywhere from anywhere at any time that you feel like it. Um, but also, I guess what was important for us when we were assembling the whole virtual exhibition was that more than just being photorealistic, it has to be accessible. Like it shouldn't matter what type of device you're on. If your internet connection is slow, it should not take a year for the website to load for you. Um, you should be able to view the images and interact and be part of it in a way. But then you also have to find that intersection where it feels like a gallery enough. It's not too foreign that is it actually an exhibition or is it just a blog? Is it just an online portfolio of sorts? So I guess yeah, that was one of the things that was in our heads when we were building this. I had another thought, but it slipped. So I will
What?
now hand it over to Christian.
Why did it slip? Why
I don't
did
know,
it slip?
but I think I was trying to. It was something also about space. Ah, there it is.
Mm,
Well, it's not so much, I guess, about the virtual gallery, but I remember when we were discussing like the website, the gallery, and all of this, we had this conversation about like this ASEAN identity thing as like it's there when you talk about it. It's there in our heads, like up there, but when you focus too hard on it, when you try to make it tangible, then it might not be possible to make it like a physical thing or like
mm,
an actual thing. You cannot view it under a microscope, but you can view it from a few hundred kilometers away or something like
mm.
this. Like it can exist in a non-space, and maybe that's why in a virtual space it makes sense. But
Yeah,
yeah, these are just musings, I guess.
yeah. I think I was going to say the same thing because so apart from creating a gallery, what was really in our head was how to convey the whole project about ASEAN identity or ASEAN community building to a wider audience where they could also think about it. And it's quite hard to do that in a physical space because I realized after having experienced being part of a few exhibitions that involve different Southeast Asian artists or ASEAN wide exhibitions, you still experience the heart of the country hosting that specific exhibition. So in a physical space, if you stage it, let's say in Manila, then the ASEAN flavor or the Southeast Asianness that you get is actually an experience of Manila hosting other Southeast Asian artists, for example. And that's exactly how I feel the ASEAN summits are held and are conveyed. So the format of the ASEAN summits are made in such a way that one country hosts each annual summit. So for this year, it's Vietnam hosting the ASEAN summit, and then last year was Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. And then a few years back in 2017 was the Philippines. So um, in a digital space, that's quite different. Based on my research about Southeast Asian photography and going back to Zhuang Wubin's study on photographic traditions in Southeast Asia, it always tends to appear like a parade of nations or a parade of countries whenever you try to put up um, a cultural or collaborative effort such as this. Because the ASEAN does not really, like what Martin was almost touching upon earlier, the ASEAN does not really exist. It's a construct and it's not physically there. Um, and we've experienced that in many of our conversations leading to this exhibition project. And because it doesn't exist, for some reason, social media made it more visible, made it more possible. And that's why earlier I was pointing at the photographic competitions that the unofficial ASEAN community and the ASEAN eventually launched for the ASEAN to have. And without social media, we'd only rely on so I'm referring to this. Now that we have social media, people are able to contribute images and their perspective of Southeast Asia in a digital space where the ASEAN exists. But without that, it's really, really country specific. And I think that goes with the policies, or I mean, the politics of each Southeast Asian countries as well. For example, in Singapore, I must say, you don't really focus on building an ASEAN. You focus on building Singapore. That's your main priority. If we go to Jakarta or in Indonesia, I mean, the ASEAN Secretariat, the head office is there, But the priority is Indonesia, of course. The ASEAN is not the main. It doesn't steal the show of building the whole country. So I compare that a lot to the experience of the EU, having studied in the UK and having experienced a change from before to now. I mean, Brexit. Um, the EU is such a different thing as compared to the ASEAN. And perhaps it's because of the policies that it has that it's more concrete. So, for example, I've had these conversations with our graduate school, and they're warning some of the PhD students who are from the EU because now they have to, by January 1st, they have to go back to their own countries and secure a proper visa so that they could stay in the UK. And yeah, that's just one different thing that sorry for mentioning that, but that's just an observation that I experienced. I'm not sure who Adrian is, so sorry if I might have touched upon a subject that's quite sensitive. But and yeah, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, going back to the whole exhibition space, I think the digital medium is enhanced by the fact that it is able to hold the idea of Southeast Asia more than, if it were done in a physical space. I think that's where I'm going towards. That's why I'm blabbering about a few different things. And it's quite impossible to create this virtual gallery and show it as an ASEAN or Southeast Asian collaboration if it were in a physical space, because the tendency is, as I've experienced in a physical space, it tends to become a parade of nations, which we are trying to lessen here. We couldn't really avoid that, but it does happen. Yeah. Okay. All right. Um, any any other questions? Sorry. Did you appreciate some of the photographs? I really enjoyed looking at many of these photographs. Really, for example, these three. It says so much. I don't know. Maybe I'm just falling in love with my own research, but um, in one way, as the lead researcher, I don't have any control with what images I'd get, and being able to work with the my co-participants and my co-curators, um, excited me because I've seen them building on each other's photographs as if they're talking to each other, as if they're conversing with images. So I remember in one instance, but this was back in 2019. Our participant from Thailand, I showed him a photograph of the electrical wires that we have on the street, and he couldn't explain he really couldn't articulate what he wanted to tell me, but instead he tried to look for a photograph that he saved on his phone with almost the same image. So I felt like at that time we were talking to each other using images. Yeah, so I think that's one interesting thing about putting up an exhibition of photographs. It's how you get unexpected glimpses or perspectives of different individuals, and at the same time you quite relate to these images because they're um, glimpses of different experiences. uh, would anyone want to ask anything else? There. Maybe I should also show this before we conclude the session. So um, we decided to also put up a page where other people can contribute their photographs, and here they are. So you could upload your photograph, and at least you could join in the conversation. But I'm really inviting all of you to try this page out again, because so far there's still a few. We only have a few photographs right now as compared to Martin's anonymized guys, and it would be nice to see unexpected images here, as much as our experience in our participatory photography sessions. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Adrian, for uh, yeah, for the compliments. Yeah. Um, the project started as an unsure, I don't know, unsure undertaking, because, to be honest, I mentioned yesterday that I did want this No, Andy asked me yesterday if the pandemic didn't happen, what would have been the outcome of this project, and I mentioned that it would have been a physical exhibition, and a traditional one, as compared to something like this. And I think I cannot say that the pandemic has been beneficial, because it is not. It has ruined lives, but in one way or another, as artists or as creative practitioners, I think you have to work around with what you have and be resourceful. And we ended up with an online exhibition in a digital space instead of a physical one. So that's why I was reflecting earlier, what would have been the difference if it were staged as a physical exhibition instead. Would anyone want to ask a few more things or add a few more things before we? No? Okay. I think before we end, I'd like to share this, because I was talking to um, Yan Uy. She's an author from Malaysia. I collaborated with her before, and she's a writer, a prose and poetry author, and she's published several books in the UK. And she contributed this poetry, which I think is quite fitting, and to include in our discussion, because we started talking about languages actually when we did this project. That's why we did the translation. So just to share with you this nice poetry. She's based in the UK in the last 10 years now. She used to live in Japan, but she's actually from Malaysia.
Mother Tongue by Yan Uy. Mother tongue, national language. Can you translate? I speak 7 tongues, but I'm not schooled in that which matters to you. We are all composites of the previous lie. Do you know? My father's birthland is different from mine, and mine is different from my daughter's. What do you say, you who do not know me? We are not all the same. I learned a new language recently, with all the etchings, 3 sets of alphabets, the sayings in layers, the stubborn readings. I love its complexity, how naturally we bonded. I want to be proud of it without thinking about the words you insist are mine. Mine only for my skin, yellow, the color of guilt. You judge my face inherited from ancestors who do not know me but live in my blood. You laugh at my accent, grown from my spirit that learned to love and be loved. You repel history that tells of how we learn, adapt, and change our culture, our language. My language. I fight to own a language that defies to be mine, while the language that rolls off my tongue in sing-song escapes my memory, its glyphs and illusion of meanings. Like a persistent deja vu, I try again and again to learn the language that is branded on my skin, but means nothing to me. I fight to find a solution to assimilate, disassociate. I fight to find a cause so I may understand. I fight so my daughter will need to. Do you see? I fight for all the parts of me, a contrast of orange and blue in myriad shapes. I dream of a rainbow in daylight, not one hidden in the night. Do you see? My tongue belongs to me.
Yeah. So yeah, Yan contributed this poetry, and I feel like it's a nice, not really a conclusion, but a nice addition to our conversation about ASEAN identity and how language is one of the most important things that really started our conversation. And without language, without, let's say, English, without the digital space, we wouldn't have been able to discuss the ASEAN per se right now. It's hard for me, for example, to discuss this in Chinese because I don't know the language. And that's what Kerrine and Andy would know. And and vice versa. If I were to speak Filipino, then so language is one of the very essential factors, I think, that threads us. And it's very interesting to see or to hear that we are able to put up all this effort through the English language. And I think yeah, that's what I've been reflecting recently. I think the next step for me to uh, proceed with this project is actually to work on poetry, because that's really my area. I never studied it, but that's where I usually enjoy myself. So perhaps that would be the next, just a teaser. I'm going towards poetry again, and I hope you'd be excited to know, to return to this project and see how it would evolve in the next few months or the next year. And I think I'd end with that note. Um, Again, thank you very much for being part of this project. And Freya, thank you very much for sharing us your time, your voice, your beautiful voice. You do know that I picked you just for that. No, and among other things. Thank you very much, Andy and Kerrine. Thank you very much for your time and interest in participating in this project. And yeah, thank you, Martin, for helping me with the back end of the website and yeah, this the putting up of some of the most technical parts and logistical parts of the online exhibition. Again, feel free to go back to our website, view the virtual gallery, and please contribute your photographs and sign our guest book or add your comments so we may be able to um, interact with you or talk with you. Thank you very much for your time and bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.